Hey, what's up? So I think when you get to be as successful as a game like Fortnite, you are never going to be safe from criticism. Often I see that criticism start with streamers and pros, and it really trickles down into the whole community. But that's usually related to gameplay, and I think that there is an issue that is significantly bigger to the point where people don't even realize it within Fortnite. And what I'm talking about is storyline. The two pillars of what make a great video game is first and foremost gameplay, but storyline does not follow far behind. And while a game like Fortnite can add as many weekly challenges and changes to the map that they want, without a consistent storyline that's going somewheres, you're not going to get people as invested as you possibly could. And that's what I want to talk about today. 3 reasons why Fortnite's storyline is really bad, why this is such a big opportunity they're missing out on, and last but not least, I think they're finally actually starting to get it together. So, let's get into it. So if we're going to fairly criticize the storyline, I think we first need to do a very brief run through of what it actually is. Because it's so insignificant and muddled and random and all over the place that I think the general community doesn't even understand it. Okay, so brief run through. The first major event to happen in Fortnite is a meteor hitting the Earth. And within the center of it comes a traveler from outer space. He works to launch a rocket to explode the island, but it tears a rift in time and space and ultimately goes away. With these rifts, however, all kinds of different things are also teleported into the map, including a giant cube.
Bro, why is that lasting so long? Bro, is this an event? What just happened?
The cube unleashes evil energy, sending darkness throughout the island and spawning evil zombie-like husks. But then after a little bit, it decides to stop that evil magic and somehow destroys itself. In its destruction, we see this sort of good side to it, and we get our first glimpse at the in-between. Then, quickly after, an evil Ice King senses the energy of the cube and travels towards the island to get the leftover shards. He then uses a combination of his own power and the energy of the shards to start a long winter and again bring back the evil husks. But his arch nemesis, who is held captive in the castle, escapes and stops all that. He then makes a giant volcano come out of the ground. And at the very same time, an undead pirate arrives onto the map in search of something. And we also know that both the Ice King and Prisoner are searching for the same thing. Using similar energy to the cube, a portal to the in-between is created, which happens to also be the vault, and players enter it. Upon exiting, the vault portal's energy causes the volcano to erupt, resulting in a mild apocalypse. We then have a period between 6 months and 8 years go by. We learn to find that the players of the island have now found a way to utilize the energy of the vault to power their cities, creating a rapid and potentially dangerous advancement in technology. And somehow the keeper of the vault is related. Okay, so I tried to keep that as brief as possible. That is the basic storyline of Fortnite. Now, when you just lay it out like that, throughout most of it, it doesn't really sound too bad. But this is actually going to take us to the first issue with the storyline. This is the lack of continuity. I think this has been single-handedly the biggest issue, especially with the first few seasons of Fortnite. Although there is a clear connection, it feels as though each season is cutting off the next in terms of storyline advancement. You have this visitor guy, what's he gonna do? And then he's just kind of gone. But he opened up these rifts and there's a cube, and what's it gonna do? And it just destroyed itself, I guess. But the Ice King's here and he's gonna do a lot of stuff, but no, never mind. Actually, the Prisoner stopped that. But now there's also a pirate here and he's gonna do something, but he's actually not. But the Prisoner actually did something this episode, and he started a volcanic eruption, which led to nothing. So as you look at each season, it builds up to something and then is cut off by the advancement of the next season. And I think that's the biggest problem with the Fortnite storyline, is that they're trying to have such different and unique seasons to push the skins and keep it fresh, but the storyline just gets completely thrown into the dirt and lit on fire and pooped on. Like, what happened to the Prisoner? Why did the cube just magically go away? The Ice King, what's he doing now? You see my point? And this is actually going to lead us to our second issue. When you keep introducing us with all this stuff and then cut it off, you don't establish a direction. Now, I think this is probably the biggest issue. The storyline doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. They're just, here you go, here you go, here you go. And the problem with that is that it doesn't incite people to get invested because they don't think that they're even on a ride of a storyline. It just feels like random justifications for random stuff happening. We don't feel like we're going to end up anywheres. And by doing this, Epic Games essentially has had to rely on just new stuff, new features, solely again focusing on gameplay. But they seem to be completely missing out on this absolutely necessary and crucial pillar, which is storyline. Ultimately, having a direction makes people feel like they're going to end up somewheres and they want to come along for the ride and stay with you. But instead, they've just had to basically double down on gameplay and new features. And then last but not least, this is very related to the first things we talked to, but I think it's very important to mention for a story, is character development. Now this is a weird one because it's clear that Epic Games needs to promote whatever skin is going to be in the Battle Pass or in the shop. So that's often what we see in the trailers. But I still feel like there's a way they could go around that. In one sense, they've almost sort of established the player base as like the main character who does the things that goes into the vault and unlocks the drum gun. But there's the villains. And this really does relate back to that whole zigzagging thing. And a lot of that is also just from the lack of characters. It feels like every season there's just another big baddie, and those people themselves aren't going anywhere. Nothing is driving the storyline. I mean, if you didn't see my theory video on Lux, I basically talked about how she is like a secret dragon, and they just completely didn't go anywhere with that. That could have been a huge thing to the storyline, but again, just absolutely nothing happened, and we're left to just make broad assumptions of what is happening and who's doing it. But with all that being said, I think Season 9 marks the start of something actually good. There's been so much going on that you can't really pinpoint what's important. But I think the thing that is important is the cube. The Visitor, he's long gone and inconsequential. The Ice King, really all he did was free the prisoner, who again is inconsequential. But I think the cube is where the storyline is going. Because at the very end of Season 8, we started seeing something going on at Loot Lake again. Obviously, a lot of the magic of the cube was left at Loot Lake, and they started playing with this idea a little bit more. We saw this area be used as a portal to the in-between, which is exciting that there's even another place that has a name. And what's even cooler is this is either a callback or was foreshadowed in the butterfly event when the cube exploded. But what I'm so glad to see, and this is the most telling part of what Epic is up to, is that mask that was in the vault. They're finally starting to throw us some ideas because in Tilted Towers, you have a statue of a person with that same mask. They're throwing us some bones. After a year and a half, we're finally starting to see the storyline going somewheres. So we kind of know who the Vault Keeper is. But what's even cooler is, as you'll see, there is a power supply going from the portal to the vault to Tilted Towers. I talked about this a little bit in another video, but this so obviously explains the rapid advancement in technology. Most of the map has remained unchanged except for a few major areas. And that is where we're finally starting to see some continuity and a storyline. The Visitor accidentally made the rifts, which brought in the cube, which did something seemingly unimportant, but they're finally building off of that. The cube is at the center of this weird portal to this weird place that we don't know. In that weird place, there's this person, and they're related to Tilted Towers because there's now a statue of them there. And the citizens of the island are using this weird, creepy magic power to run their cities. I'm thinking this is where Season 9 is going. There's going to be an issue with using this weird, creepy cube magic. But again though, we're only starting to finally see this at the end of Season 8 and the beginnings of Season 9. And I'm really excited. Instead of bopping around to all these different places, to these characters that don't matter, we're finally starting to see consistency, continuity, and maybe even some characters finally getting thrown into the mix. And I will end this video in saying it is not too late, Epic Games, for you to pull a Treyarch. For anyone that's played Call of Duty Zombies, from Derice in World at War to Keener Tote in the theater of Black Ops 1, or some of the greats like Mob of the Dead and Origins of Black Ops 2, that is how you fix your story. They went from nothing to a bad storyline to one of the coolest storylines to ever happen, I think, in a video game. And what they did is exactly that. They pieced all together what happened in their clunky parts where they didn't really care about the storyline, and then they harnessed that and put it into a good story. And that's what we saw with the end of Black Ops 2 and Origins and all the way through Black Ops 3. So I'd love to see that happen with Epic Games, because anyone that is a fan of zombies knows how much a good storyline can help you. And I would just be excited to see anything even a tenth as good as the zombie storyline thrown in to Fortnite. It keep me interested, and I'd like to do a lot more of these kinds of videos. Anyways, thank you guys very much for making it all the way through this one. Let me know what you thought on this style of content. If you're new to the channel, please feel free to subscribe. Maybe I've learned you're liked by this point, and regardless, I'm gonna end it there. Thank you very much for watching, and I will talk to you later. Peace. Actually, no. Peace out, you freaking nerds. If you made it through this one, you're definitely a certified nerd like myself. So, yeah, okay, bye. Oh, you just gave me the video. Okay, let me download that and at least just upload it.